Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who's been waiting for me. Thank you to all of our members, our subscribers, our regular live streamers, and everyone new joining us for the first time as well. Welcome to our live stream. In case you're new to our live stream, this is the more thorough video, more thorough version. I usually publish a few videos every day, some of them with basic updates. The live stream is to have more in-depth analysis and to talk a bit more about detailed things, usually around the subjects that we usually talk about, and obviously open the space up for all of my viewers, subscribers, members to share their thoughts as well, have a platform, and ask questions as well. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the highlights from the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, and his speech today, in which he said some interesting things. Now, I highlighted key moments of this speech that I wanted to share with you. Obviously, it was just over an hour, but there were key elements that are very, very important, and this is coming obviously a day after they sent their UAV to spy all over North Israel in what they said to be part one. Clearly, they have a part two, part three coming up after that. So he said some very important things. I published a video earlier on about one of the things he mentioned in his speech, in particular relating to Cyprus. Israel is reportedly using Cypriot territory to train because the mountain terrain is very similar to Lebanon, and there have been reports, including from Israel, that Israel will be using Cypriot airports to conduct attacks because they know that Hezbollah will be attacking Israeli airports. Israeli airports, obviously military airports, and everything. So I wanted to post a short video about that, but in this video I highlighted key moments that I wanted to share with you, and obviously after that I will open up the space for all of you, and again welcome to everyone. Greeting, this is good to see you as always, and I'll open up the space up for you after I share the highlights that I took from the speech of Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah. And obviously you can ask any questions then and share your thoughts too, if you wouldn't mind highlighting them, please. And apologies in advance if I'm unable to address all of them, because obviously with the live stream the chat keeps going. That's why I would advise to leave any certain questions for when I finish. It's not going to be too long. It's just over 2,000 words approximately, the key moments of his speech. So the first point that I want to talk about is him speaking about deterrence and preparedness. Nasrallah emphasized the significance of the South Lebanon front, revealing that Hezbollah has prepared for the most difficult days. Hezbollah has prepared for the most difficult days. He warned Israel that any war against Lebanon would result in significant retaliation with precise strikes on numerous targets. And in the speech, he elaborated further. He said it's not about taking down buildings, because he said you can take down buildings, but you'll keep the state. Israel is destroying all of Gaza, but they're keeping Hamas. Nasrallah said no. It's not gonna be targeting whole buildings. That doesn't mean you take down. Said we will be targeting certain things that won't always necessarily be buildings that will lead to the state collapsing. strategic key places in the country, military bases, strategic bases, sensitive bases, government, everything to do with the authority and how the government is doing. And obviously, judging by what they've done so far, it's not surprising because although their attacks have been limited, they've been precise. So they've caused a lot of destruction. Like what we've done. Israel declared that over 1,900 buildings have been destroyed in Israel just in the past 8 months. So Nasrallah saying that with this level of destruction, we'll see what he means if it all breaks loose. 2, he spoke about the strategic capabilities of Hezbollah. He highlighted Hezbollah's ability to reach any location within Israel. So far, they're playing with a small part of the north. He said they are able to reach any location within Israel, destabilizing the occupation's entity. He discussed the development and abundance of Hezbollah's weapons, including missiles and drones, which have been effectively safeguarded despite Israeli attempts to intercept them, and he also said that they got new weapons. Obviously, the warnings to Cyprus, which I spoke about in the previous video. Nasrallah warned the Cypriot government that if its land is used for maneuvers against Lebanon, it would be treated as part of the war. The message is obviously strategic deterrent, signaling high levels of readiness to confront any allied forces aiding Israel. And obviously he said, we're covering the Mediterranean. He said, our brothers, the Ansarullah, they're doing the Red Sea, and they said they're extending it to the Mediterranean. We've seen a couple of things, but if we go in with the Mediterranean, you're talking about a completely different story. And that is absolutely true. It will be a completely different story if Hezbollah entered the battle fully, and they had attacks to be conducted in the Mediterranean. By the way, one of the reasons for the US carrier leaving, one of the reasons could have potentially been Hezbollah and their arsenal that they have. Obviously, another argument is leverage against Israel. You know, we're not aiding you forever, because they said we're coming here to deter Hezbollah and Iran, and then all of a sudden they left while Hezbollah and Iran were still attacking, or Iran in their case supporting. But they revealed a video a few months back of their land-to-sea missiles. By the way, land-to-sea missiles that they used in 2006, they used land-to-sea missiles. Now they have much more advanced ones. In 2006, when there was a war between Lebanon and Israel, or that Hezbollah was leading the front, Nasrallah was having a speech, and during his speech, he advised to look at the sea, look at it was a Sa'ar, I think, one of their Sa'ar, I think it's a corvette, and they attacked it, right? And that was back then. Now they have much more advanced things. Rules of engagement, that's another thing he was talking about, the rules of engagement. He stressed that Hezbollah's response to any aggression would be without restrictions, rules, or ceilings. Without restrictions, rules, or ceilings, the response to any aggression. What would be the aggression? How would Hezbollah define an all-out war or Israel crossing the lines? That's reserved to Hezbollah again. There's being secret about that, and I'll get to the secrecy element too. The speech was framed as one of the most official, critical, strategic deterrence messages directed at Israel and its allies. Very, very comprehensive. Very, very comprehensive, very thorough, meticulously put together. Covered everything. The fifth thing, Hezbollah's operational secrecy. Nasrallah noted that Hezbollah only reveals its capabilities when facing significant threats, drawing parallels to past strategic revelations. He also provides historical context referring to Ansariya ambush in 1997, which remained secret up until 2010. So obviously, whatever Hezbollah is releasing now, maybe just the tip of the iceberg. Maybe a bit more, but maybe just the tip of the iceberg. 6-part regional implications. The speech suggested broader implications for the region, indicating that a war against Lebanon would have wide-reaching consequences, affecting not just Israel, but also supporters like the United States and NATO allies. The 7th thing, Hezbollah's readiness. Nasrallah assured that Hezbollah has maintained and developed new weapons, preparing for any eventuality. He highlighted the human capacity and mobilization within Hezbollah, emphasizing the readiness and motivation of its fighters. And when it comes to the fighters, he said, we have more than enough fighters. We have more than enough fighters. I mean, I previously stated that if they want, they can bring 1 million. Hezbollah, they can bring 1 million people to fight with them from countries aligned with them. At least. I mean, some people used to say hundreds of thousands. No, over 1 million they'll bring. If they need to bring 1 million, they'll bring 1 million Hezbollah. But according to him, we're fine with our fighters. Is he including potential other groups fighting with them? He said we, Hezbollah, but he could also be referring to people who are working under the umbrella of Hezbollah. 8, he mentioned the coordination with other resistance movements, the readiness of allied groups from Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Iran to support Hezbollah if needed. This coordination reflects a unified front among various resistance movements in the region. He also mentioned a couple of things about one of their military figures who was assassinated, Abu Talib. He said he paid a tribute to him, highlighting his contribution, obviously strength of the unit that he led. He said the recent missile launches from Lebanon were credited to the unit led by Hajj Abu Talib, underscoring Hezbollah's operational continuity despite leadership losses. Which is something that Israel understands, by the way, but they still like to kill people because of bloodlust. They killed most significant leaders of resistance movement. They know it doesn't end. Why? Because they're still occupying, still killing, but they don't look at themselves. They just like to kill. As a matter of fact, they make them stronger. They recruit more people for them. 10. Hezbollah's strategic deterrence. Nasrallah's speech was also described as one of the highest strategic deterrence messages ever conveyed by Hezbollah, aimed at preventing a war through a show of strength and readiness. He reiterated the significance of the Lebanese front in supporting Gaza and maintaining pressure on Israel. That was very evident, by the way. The pressure on Israel and the Lebanese front in particular, although the other fronts did a lot to affect how the war is going and applied more pressure on Israel and its allies and other countries too, in particular Yemen, but also Iraq as well. But Hezbollah took the most pressure out of Gaza. Almost 50% of the resources of the IDF went to Lebanon because of Hezbollah. And many things are underreported. Like I said, Hezbollah destroyed over 1,900 buildings. In some Israeli towns and settlements in the north, 90% of them are destroyed. The official claims 85 to 90,000 people leaving their homes. It's most likely hundreds of thousands, if not even. These are just official stats because some people beyond the 3 to 5 kilometer range that Hezbollah said they're targeting, they fled too. And also taking into consideration the millions that left Israel post the 7th of October, that's also due to Hezbollah, not just Hamas. Otherwise, everyone in the south would feel like the north is safe. Let me go to the north. Hezbollah made nothing safe for them. Made nothing safe. The Palestinian resistance was already reaching central Israel. They weren't reaching the area between Haifa and Tel Aviv. Apart from a couple of hits, by the way, we're not talking the regular bombing. Like Haifa itself was targeted many times, like probably a dozen times. Other parts in that region were targeted, but I'm talking about the day-to-day effect. That didn't happen yet. And obviously the message that they sent through their UAV spying on Israel is, here's our bank of targets. Obviously, the last thing is the message. The last thing that I highlighted, and then I'll obviously open the space up for you, is the message for Israel and its allies. The speech served as a clear warning to Israel and its international supporters, emphasizing the severe repercussions of any military aggression against Lebanon. And when we say military aggression, an intensified all-out military aggression against Lebanon, where we're talking about an all-out war. Because now there is a war. It's not like there isn't a war. There is a war with Lebanon. But it's not an all-out war. But it's still a war. People are dying on both sides. There's destruction on both sides. Nasrallah underscored the existential threat to Israel posed by Hezbollah's capabilities and readiness to engage in comprehensive warfare. And these were the points that I thought were most important to share. Obviously, he detailed even more than that. Nasrallah usually talks more and details more things, but I just wanted to keep it brief as much as possible, not to take too much of your time. And let me open the space up for you, check all of your comments, all of your questions. Francis Fitzgerald, thank you so much for your super thanks, firstly. And Manuel, thank you so much for your super thanks. I really, really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. It means a lot to me. Tashikoma is asking me about the state in the north. For those of you who are not familiar, the Galilee previously declared that they're going to be separate from Israel. 2 weeks before the Israeli independence date, heads of settlements of the north, they said we're going to declare the independence of the Galilee. That was probably countered by something, by some sort of a deal. However, Margaliot, one of the settlements, still declared that they're splitting from Israel. And I spoke about it just around about a month ago. They said, we don't want the Israeli army here. We're disconnecting from Israel, and we don't want any ties with the government. They felt like they've been neglected. This is coming to represent a growing feeling, obviously, amongst all of the settlements in the north, in line with Hezbollah that have been attacked, and also regular talk in Israel. It's regular to say in Israel, we lost the north. It's regular to say in Israel, we lost the north. If you're talking about the majority of the Zionist population leaving the north, when the Galilee is already majority Palestinian with Israeli citizenship, what do they have left? They always viewed the north as a demographic problem. You see, Israel, this is how they view it. They don't like to have more Palestinians than them. They need to be demographically superior. You need to have Jewish settlements. You need to Judaize this and Judaize that and Judaize Jerusalem. If you need to Judaize things too much, then what does that say? That it's not Jewish. That's why you need to Judaize it, according to your twisted beliefs. But if all of them left, then you have a massive problem. You have a massive problem, and there's already talk in Israel about them losing the north. Why? Because Hezbollah can be drinking coffee in the Galilee in a matter of few days if an all-out war opens. Hezbollah fighters will be drinking tea and coffee in the middle of the Galilee without too much challenge, by the way. Why? Because if all of the Zionist population leaves, you don't have that much of a hostile environment. Simple. And obviously people are fleeing the country. They're making it easier for them. So that was the only place that said we're officially splitting, but that doesn't mean the tensions are not there and that there are not more problems and many other things that are not being obviously declared. That's from Teshikuma. And Brother Kirk Duckerty, thank you so much for your super thanks, my good friend. And again, happy birthday. I know it was 3 days ago, but happy birthday again. To Kirk, it was his birthday about 3 days ago. And still came to the live stream. Look, dedication. Dedication, I'm telling you. And Faraz Hussein and Daniela Modus Qatar, thank you so much for your super thanks as well. I really appreciate that. Faraz saying, why are American troops there and why? They're, fighting with Israel. If you want to talk about American troops, firstly, if you talk about Israel, Israeli people, most of them have second passports. So if you say, unless you mean directly belonging to the American army, which is a separate story, but many of them have dual nationalities, that's number one. If you're talking only about American troops, by the way, that's quite limited according to the details that we have. There have been occurrences and reports about interference and involvement from American troops, boots on ground in Gaza or around Gaza that failed miserably. Apart from that, we know of strategic support for Israel from the United States. We know about intelligence support from the United Kingdom through airplanes traveling to and from Cyprus at over 200 flights over Gaza. And apart from that, it wasn't too intense because listen, Israelis don't want to fight for their state. The Israeli army is collapsing. It's going to be a has-been sometime soon. The people are not fighting. Now reports 70,000 disabled. 70,000. What does that mean? Hundreds of thousands injured and tens of thousands killed. What did Hamas do to them? Well, what is this power that Hamas possesses? Someone explain to me. How much power do they have, Hamas? We thought they were like this group hiding in tunnels with flip-flops and Adidas trainers shooting. What is this power? Making 70,000 IDF troops disabled? Meaning over 100,000 wounded? Meaning at least the lower tens of thousands killed? What is that, Hamas? No one knew they had such capability. And no one knew the level of incompetence of this army. Army that targets people in cowardice ways, destroys civilian buildings as punishment, again, and as a cover-up for their failure on the ground. Cowardice. And they're upset with the fact that they can no longer implement their strategy in war. Shock, retreat. Lightning attacks through the Air Force, go back in enemy territory, get the job done, go back. That's it. They decided to go to Gaza. They decided to sink in the sands of Gaza. And they're sinking. And they're sinking massively. And trust you me, even if they try to recruit everyone in the world, they would find that pretty difficult. Pretty difficult. That would be an understatement even. Because their own people are not willing to die for their state, for their army, and for Benjamin Netanyahu. Most of the people in Israel are not willing to die for their state, let alone die for a person, let alone die for a psychopathic maniac like Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel's done. So no American troops, no European troops, no one will save them. They're faced by people who do not fear death and who are fighting for just causes. How can you defeat that? What are you going to go and support? A genocidal state? As confirmed by the world's largest ICJ, come on, with arrest warrants. What's the difference between that and going to die for Hitler, as you describe it, right? And Ray Husseini, thank you so much for your super thanks as well. and Stephen Burrows as well. I'm sorry if I missed anyone. Let me just have a look. Yes, Stephen Burrows and Ray Husseini, thank you so much for your super thanks too. Stephen is saying that Hezbollah chased an F-16 away with a missile. Yes, that's correct. If Israel have lost their air supremacy, it's truly over. Yeah. Obviously, that doesn't mean Israel is unable to conduct attacks. They are still able to conduct attacks. They're still able to cause destruction. But that doesn't mean they can do it freely and with the same levels of comfort. Plus, the Hezbollah forced the F-16 to go back, meaning, who does that? Syrian air defense systems from Russia. That's what does that. Forced them to go back. In 2018, an F-16 was down in Syria. So Hezbollah have the capacity to take down F-16s too. Now they said we're not gonna reveal the weapon used to take down the Hermes 900, by the way, because they took down the Hermes 900. That's the most sophisticated and biggest UAV Israel has. So far, they cost Israel over $1 billion in UAVs. Over $1 billion in just UAVs. Forget about the land and everything else. So yes, and you're talking about proper strategic deterrence. I'd go as far as saying that Hezbollah is now even more superior than Israel in certain aspects. Even more. The level of intelligence, the live level of intelligence, clearly in the cyber, clearly in the targeted attacks, as people work in very sophisticated ways. And Al-Karaki, thank you so much as well for your super thanks. Before that, Faraz was asking, are they going to try and kill Palestinian soldiers? Oh, if you're talking about the Americans, that's if anyone participates. Hardly anyone participates. Which person with a sound mind would go and fight for a genocidal state? Who? American troops are resigning. American troops are resigning, some of them, from the army. Aaron Bushnell burned himself. Many veterans are speaking up. Who's going to go and die for a genocidal, apartheid, racist, ethnocratic state? I mean, you must be out of your mind to do that. You must be completely out of your mind or totally depraved, a completely morally depraved individual to do that. And I highly doubt so. I highly doubt so. If they have tensions with the US government now, delaying weapons, do you think they'll support them with troops? Now, Australia, they're interrogating people going to Israel and suspected of participating in the army. That's it. It's over. If these people can't participate in the army freely, forget about it. That's Australia, an ally of Israel, supporting Israel. Canada, one of the top 10 suppliers, ban arms sale. The only country that's loyal till the last second is Great Britain. Lord Cameron, Lord David Cameron. Well, I wonder why they didn't give him a title of Clown Cameron. Suits him much more. He said, no, we're not gonna ban arms sales to Israel. We're still considering if they've, committed acts of war crimes in Gaza. We're still not sure yet. Great Britain is till the last second. The British establishment, they're like, okay, we established the state, we need to support them till the last second. And Al-Karaki, thank you so much for your super thanks, brother. You said, how long, brother, do we stand and watch starvation, which is making its way to the north? No shipments since Rafah invasion. When? Does Egypt, Jordan do something when kids are all starved, just sick of what I'm saying? Everyone shares the same sickness, really. from the countries who are not doing enough, obviously. Now, the main problem that we have with the starvation is the enablement of Israel. Let's talk about that before we talk about even Egypt and Jordan. Not to take away responsibility from them, but to put things straight. The main country that's enforcing this starvation is Israel. And the people enabling it are people in power in the countries that back Israel. The US, the UK, some EU countries, these are the people who are liable. Israel and anyone supporting it, these are the people who are starving the people to death. Let's put it straight. They're number one. Number two, you can talk about the lack of action, the lack of enough action from Egypt, number one. And then obviously Jordan. But Egypt has more responsibility because they're just next to them. And obviously now with regards to Rafah, I explained it to people, this trio agreement when it comes to Rafah, but now Israel occupies it and Egypt doesn't want to make it a precedent that Israel can control the Rafah crossing in the Philadelphia corridor. Because Israel told them, we're happy to accept aid from Rafah, but Egypt told them, no, we're not recognizing Israel and Rafah, they shouldn't be there. Only a Palestinian side will accept the aid, but they're sending the aid through Karam Abu Salim, so they're still sending aid, but not enough. Not enough to a level where people are starving to death, people are dying unnecessarily, just because there's no sufficient treatment, right? Lots of stress, destruction of hospitals. I mean, seriously. I mean, if this happened in any country other than Israel, right, other than Gaza, excuse me. Imagine it happened in Israel. What the mainstream media would say about it. Imagine Palestinian fighters going to a hospital in Tel Aviv, shooting everyone down and burning bodies, handcuffing them and raping women in front of their husbands and forcing them to keep their eyes open, otherwise they'll shoot them, murdering children. And it's not just a genocide in Gaza, by the way, it's an infanticide. It's the mass murder of children, of infants. That's what Israel is doing. So let us not be mistaken. The first country responsible is Israel, to anyone supporting Israel. Then we talk about the lack of action, lack of enough action from Arab countries. But let's not forget who is the main culprit here. The main culprit is Israel as a state. That's the main culprit. Then anyone enabling them, covering up their crimes, or shamelessly backing them, then obviously the Arab states are definitely not doing enough. That's the least we can say. Now, the question is, up until when we're going to have this situation? That this is where things get more worrying. Why? Because we're hearing more reports about this war extending up until the end of 2024. There was a report in Politico on officials from Israel and the US saying that we're not seeing that we can reach a deal now. Biden is losing hope. Israel and Hamas only can agree on the first stage of the ceasefire, but not 2 and 3. So it might take up until at least 2024. So if you prolong this, that means you'll have more starvation, more famine, more devastation. And that's what Israel is intending to do. That's why the pressure needs to be increased on everyone supporting this genocide everywhere. And Aini Anwar, thank you so much for your super thanks as well. That question was from Al-Karaki. My brother, thank you so much for your super, and thank you for the question. Jack, you were saying, Brother Mahmoud, you must remember Lebanon has open borders. They're not like a blockade like Gaza. Absolutely, and that's what's much more different about Lebanon. Lebanon, they can get everything through land, air, and sea. So if Hamas is unbeatable. In the words of the IDF spokesperson, I just released another video, please watch it after this live stream. The IDF spokesperson, we cannot eliminate Hamas. They finally admitted. He said, we cannot eliminate Hamas. He's sending a dig at Benjamin Netanyahu, by the way, who only says we need to eliminate Hamas. Now they're saying we cannot eliminate Hamas. If you couldn't eliminate Hamas with all of this destruction and barbarism, and with Hamas being in a blockade, having to go about so many things, I mean, what is this Hamas? Really, you need a century to try and understand what they did with this country, by the way. We're now living in the heat of the moment. When everything ends, you can create episodes from here up until 2124. 100 years about what's happening now. So if Hamas are unbeatable under siege, how can Hezbollah be beaten? How can they be beaten? Neither can be beaten, by the way. But obviously Hezbollah, in terms of capabilities, you're talking about a different league. Hezbollah has more firepower than most European countries. Seriously, most world countries, they're like a joke next to Hezbollah. So you're talking about a different ball game. ABC, did you think if Hezbollah attacked Greek Cyprus, NATO would use this as a reason to declare war against the resistance? They're more than welcome to try. That's all I can tell you. They're more than welcome to try. Let them go and try. What are they going to do? Oh, go to Lebanon. Go to Gaza. You went to Afghanistan for 20 years. What did they do? Leave with their tails between their legs. Like scared dogs. This is how they left from Afghanistan. And that's 20 years. They went away from Iraq. What are they going to do with in Palestine? In Lebanon? NATO? Come on. What are they going to do? Plus, don't forget that NATO going, that's like opening everything. We're talking about direct Iran involvement, direct everything. Mike talking about Russia now and China, because these countries, they would obviously participate when things get bigger. They view things strategically. But don't forget that. And Al-Karaki, brother, thank you so much again for your super thanks. Wildlife matters. Hi, Mahmoud. What happened to the guy who killed 2 Israelis in Nablus? Car ramming them. They managed to flee back to the PA. I didn't hear it was handed over to the Zionists or no. I didn't hear that he was handed over. And the situation in the West Bank is very, very tense. Is very, very tense. And the finance minister of Israel, he's not going to pass the money. That means the security forces that are aligned with Israel don't have salaries. Do you understand how stupid they are? It's like they're shooting themselves in the foot. So if you have security forces who are aligned with you, cooperate with you, you also don't want to pass money to them. Look how arrogant and entitled they are. But again, that's probably good, because so they can even show more of what they are. Let's see where we reached. A traveler saying Zion entity will not go down unless these psychopaths take everyone with them. Well, look, how else can we translate what's happening now? A man is taking the whole country with him. It's already happening. A psychopath is taking down the country with him. It doesn't have to be immediate and like apocalyptic. It's going down by a psychopath taking everyone with him. Benjamin Netanyahu led to hundreds of thousands of casualties in the IDF, led to Israel being humiliated, defeated in an existential war, failed, secluded, viewed as a pariah state, a criminal state by international law, without trying to stop it even. He's not even trying to stop. Do you understand that? If you're confirming, okay, it's no longer for argument's sake. They're saying they're in an existential threat war, okay? You are a country. You're facing an existential threat. And this existential threat is taking effect. It's the war you're in. What's your priority? How do you end the existential threat? You end the war. It doesn't matter how. It does not matter how you end it, because it's the threat. And bite the bullet. And accept the loss, even accept the defeat. Even if you do it tactically. Anyone with an ounce of brain does that. You do it in business, you do it in politics, you do it everything in life. If you are seeing that you're dragging yourself to a tunnel and you think, I'm about to die, but I'm still going down the tunnel, stop going down the tunnel. It's very simple. But they don't view it this way. So this is exactly what's happening. Excuse me. You have a psychopath taking the whole entity down with him. How can someone else explain it? Like I said, you're in a threat. You're under threat. Your life is threatened, right? You've had an accident, you've done anything, whatever it is, and your life is under threat. What is the first thing you need to do? End the threat. The car is burning. Get out of the car. But no, he's pushing the war. Pushing it, and he doesn't want to stop. And it's not only his existential, he's causing so much problems across the world. You need to be a complete lunatic to do that. To cause problems with the country that's keeping you alive, biting the hand that feeds you. It's not even biting the hand that feeds you, swearing at the hand that feeds you as well. Israel relies fully on the United States of America. What can they do without the United States of America, who's supporting them so much already, by the way, but is just asking them to do certain things? They don't even want to do that. So you already have a psychopathic maniac ruining the country and taking everyone down with him. And again, this is what the Israelis are saying. Israelis in the protests every day. And you're talking about Israelis who believe in Israel and who believe in Zionism. And some of them want a two-state solution. Some of them don't. Some of them don't care what happened, but they want to end it. They're seeing what's happening. People in the security establishment are saying that. Words like we're doomed, the end of the state, obviously existential war, that's something repeated, existential threat is repeated, common now. So yeah, we're in existential threat, but we want to stay there. What kind of common sense is that? And Samantha, thank you for your super thanks. Said Mahmoud, do you think Israel will use the RAF base in Cyprus to attack Lebanon? Could Cyprus even prevent this? Well, clearly they could. Israel is bragging about the fact that it can use Cyprus. Obviously, Cypriot officials are denying. In terms of RAF, of course. What? Britain, they showed how loyal they are, the British government, to Israel. Total loyalty till the end. Till death do us part. Till death do us apart. So yeah, they can. Can Cyprus prevent this? Well, if they're a sovereign state, then yes. If they're not a sovereign state, then they can't prevent it, but they can face the repercussions of Hezbollah. Clearly, they're scared of Hezbollah, by the way, by them coming to Lebanon and denying, right? The Cypriot prime minister, oh, no, that's not true. Hezbollah is scaring them. They're creating a new equation. Talal is asking if the cabinet approved the war on Lebanon. Nothing has been published to say that they approved an all-out war on Lebanon. And again, look at what they're doing militarily. Look at what they're doing militarily. If you want to have a military campaign, a successful military campaign, first and foremost, the surprise element. If you're going to keep bragging about, I'm going to attack Lebanon, like you did about Rafah, what are you doing? Preparing them. And now what are they saying about Rafah? And I'll probably post a video about this. The Israeli army is saying, we suffered the most intense attacks in Rafah, more than anywhere else. It's like these people learned everything, all of the lessons, and they annihilated us in Rafah. That's why they're having a tactical military pause. Tactical military, tactical military, because you were roasted. That's why. Now imagine they're doing that with Lebanon. Oh, we're threatening Lebanon. We're going to attack you. What kind of a military strategy is that? Giving them time to prepare? Where's the surprise element? Oh no, hi Hezbollah, I'm going to be attacking you sometime soon. Could you prepare your air defenses, please? I'm going to be attacking you maybe during the summer. What kind of stupidity is that? So even if they approve it tomorrow, Hezbollah is prepared for them. Whether they approve or don't approve, they're prepared for them. But again, look at how incompetent they are. I mean, I constantly speak about the fact that they haven't achieved anything militarily or politically in Gaza. They destroyed everything. A human catastrophe, infanticide, a genocide, destruction, a barbarism, depravity. Showed us the morals and the values that these people follow and that anyone who supports them follow. Showed us their morals and their values as they are. But the resistance, well, what do they? Militarily, you're a nation that's defeated. Politically, secluded, viewed as a pariah state globally. What kind of a political achievement is that? Politically, you achieve the sympathy of the population, of the world. Militarily, you stop the attacks against you. You remove the threat against your citizens. They achieve none of that. And it's not like that these were there. The objective was to eliminate Hamas. Look at this demagogues, I'm telling you. On slogans and empty stuff just to feed on the bloodthirsty racists in Israel and cause destruction and say X amount have been killed and bragging about, doing all of these creepy acts, stealing women's underwear or whatever it is in Gaza, playing with butchered children's bicycles, like depravity. Nothing has been achieved. And what are you telling Hezbollah now? I'm going to be coming to you, so prepare yourself. They're already prepared. Kate Lynch, what role do you think anti-Semitism played in Zionism? Obviously, it's a colonial racist endeavor, but do you think anti-Semitism played a role in European Jews wanting to colonize Palestine? The term anti-Semitism rose simultaneously with the term Zionism. And I believe the term anti-Semitism is malicious in intent. If you want to describe any hatred or discrimination against the Jewish people, say something like anti-Jewish. Like you say, I don't know, Islamophobia or anti-Islam or anti-Christian. It makes more sense. Why is it anti-Semitism? Firstly, the term itself gained momentum in the beginning of the 20th century, simultaneously with the rise of Zionism. What was Zionism about? Ethnicizing the Jews. Ethnicizing the Jews. Making Judaism an ethnicity, not a religion. The term anti-Semitism and Semitism started to rise with Zionism simultaneously, and simultaneously we obviously had other religious movements and cults being created, and simultaneously we had this term that started to be more popular later on, the Judeo-Christian nation, this twisting of biblical verses to suit their agenda, of their Zionist agenda, and obviously to push on parts of the Christians who wanted the Jews to be in Palestine, because the Jewish settlement in Palestine, initially that's Christian movements wanted that. So they can get the Jews in, and according to their belief, hasten the arrival of the promised Messiah, according to them again. And then the Jews either convert or they get killed. So I obviously had Zionism and anti-Semitism. Then it became anti-Semitism so that you cannot criticize Zionism, the weaponization, like they're using it now. Selling it under the facade of it's anti-Jewish. But that's garbage. Half of the protesters are Jews in many protests. Encampments, Jews. Anti-Zionist Jews. I speak with them regularly. Oh, you heard Miko Peled the other day. I was with him. He was like, Israel should cease to exist because it's an apartheid state. Is he anti-Semitic too? A Jewish man. Neturei Karta, are they also anti-Semitic? Torah Jews, are they anti-Semitic too? Stop fooling us. But they're obviously using that, and they're using it primarily to instill fear in people. And, the cowards, they fall for it. What can you do? Some people are afraid of their shadow. Some people look at their shadow and they're scared, let alone being under the threat of being labeled anti-Semitic for criticizing the state of Israel because some people believe they're God's chosen people. So it's all a facade, really. If you want to talk about anti-Judaism, say anti-Judaism, something that is totally reprehensible, as is any other form of racism and discrimination. No one should be discriminated against based on his religion or ethnicity. However, everyone is entitled to criticize heavily, to the max, by the way, an apartheid supremacist terrorist ideology. I'm totally entitled to criticize this ideology, and I'm totally entitled to say that it doesn't have a right to exist, and I'm totally entitled to say that it should be criminalized, and I'm totally entitled to say that everyone who follows this ideology should be imprisoned because they believe in genocide, racial and religious supremacy, that certain people are under other people, that people are not equal in rights, all of that to justify their Zionist ideology. And if you want to look at the level of weaponization, look at Zionist organizations such as the IHRA. Obviously, they've been pumping up the Holocaust. Obviously, Jewish people undeniably suffered in the Holocaust and in Europe, and discrimination undeniable, but the Holocaust has been pumped up. They have been using this victimhood of the Holocaust. They have been weaponizing anti-Semitism, and they have been relating Israel to the term anti-Semitism, IHRA, right? IHRA, they have 14 definitions of the term anti-Semitism, right? 14 definitions of anti-Semitism, excuse me. 7 of them relate to Israel. How can you come and describe a certain term, anti-Semitism, and relate a country to it? It's like someone telling me I'm anti-Muslim if I criticize Saudi Arabia or Turkey or whatever it is. What is that? What kind of nonsense is that? It's preposterous. What kind of proposition is this? 7 out of 14. If you deny the existence of Israel, if you got the right to exist, well, they don't have a right to exist. As an apartheid state, they don't have a right to exist. No state has a right to exist by suppressing other people. Well, neither Israel nor anyone else. I don't care what they call themselves. It's not my problem that they call themselves a Jewish state. It's their problem. They're the ones giving a bad name to Judaism. They should look at themselves. Rise of anti-Semitism and anti-Judaism, look at yourself. You're talking in the name of Judaism and slaughtering people. You go fix it. But no, they'll come on you. No, criticizing Israel. They're pulling the Star of David in front of your head and saying Jewish state and committing a genocide and an infanticide in Gaza. Let them go fix their own mess. It's not my problem, it's their problem. And I will be saying it as it is, completely regardless of anyone wants to say anything. When you want to speak about something politically, you say it as it is. Especially when you have a case of a country that's proven to be an apartheid supremacist, brutal, occupying neo-fascist state, but happens to talk in the name of Judaism. It's not my problem, it's their problem. They go and fix it. So I hope that elaborates. And again, played any role in European Jews wanting to colonize Palestine. Who had a problem with Jews? Muslims? No. The Jews seek refuge in the Ottoman Empire. They were perfectly fine under Islamic rule and in Arab states throughout all of history. Where did they face problems? Where did they face persecution? In Europe. Who said we need to find a solution to the Jewish question? Europe, not me. Who came up with the answer to the Jewish question in Europe? Zionism. Who did they collaborate with? Nazism. Read about the Ha'vara agreement, or transfer, as the word means in Hebrew, where the Zionists and the Nazis collaborated to bring Jewish immigrants from Germany to Palestine. Read about the Patria disaster, where they murdered Jewish immigrants to Palestine just because they weren't finding their political interest with them. They didn't get approval from the British Empire at the time, thought would take it down. And they call it a disaster, not like a terror attack, no. Everything should be looked into, all of that part of the history. And all what you hear is a weaponization to try and scare people and instill fear in them so that they do not talk and keep their mouths zipped. And if you keep your mouth zipped, who are you serving? the oppressor. To them, done deal. As far as they're concerned, but they don't want you to support Israel. They just don't want you to criticize it. They don't care if you hate Israel. They just don't want you to talk. How do they do that? By scaring the living daylight out of you. Anti-Semitism. You support terror. Ah. All this garbage. I know we've been used to that from a long time ago. I'm glad more people are realizing this now. Daniela Modus-Cutter is saying the issue is the base in Cyprus is British sovereign land. I'm not sure if it is British sovereign land, but whether it's British sovereign land or not, Hezbollah will be targeting them if they got out of there. Whether it's British sovereign land or US sovereign land or whatever. Obviously, the British Empire was scattered all across the world. They have land in Argentina and all across the ocean. So if they want to allow a genocidal state to use their base to go and commit genocide, let them face repercussions. Let them face repercussions. It's their responsibility. British or non-British. And Ray, thank you so much for your super as well. Where were we? And Josie Buzz, thank you for your super as well. Sorry if I'm missing anyone. Let me have a look. I hope the live chat doesn't disappear. Yeah, Ray and Josie and everyone else, thank you so much. Where did we reach? Oh, okay. Some of them disappeared now. YouTube needs to fix this. Teshicom is saying, what's the update with the ceasefire? Politico are now saying reports from US officials supposedly that the administration isn't looking like they're going to have a ceasefire, and they're expecting this war to continue up to the end of 2024. So it doesn't sound promising. And Netanyahu, this man is psychopathic with psychopathic allies. So, like I said, it's like they're committing suicide and they're doing it in front of the whole world. And while they're committing suicide, they're killing people around them. That's the problem. If they want to commit suicide on their own, it's their responsibility. They're taking people around them. All of that wouldn't have been made possible unless they were supported and enabled by primarily the US administration, supplying them with all of this military support and this diplomatic support. So they are on the table, Kate continued, but it doesn't look, we don't have a breakthrough so far, especially concerning the second and third phase. Apparently, Hamas and Israel agreed on the first phase, which is Israel withdrawing from the central, heavily populated areas, starting to have some sort of a prisoner swap, having a bit more aid. They haven't agreed on phases 2 and 3. Because Hamas, they know, they want to ensure that this genocide is not going to happen on the Palestinian people, and Israel does not have the ability to go ahead. And that's why they wanted the Russians, the Chinese, and the Turks to be guarantors. Because they don't even trust the United States. Who are they to trust? They're a part of the problem. They're not a part of the solution. Sam Kitty, thank you so much for your kind comment, and everyone else as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate your input and comments. And I'm sorry if I'm unable to go through all of them just because of the time restrictions, really. Okay. Kate's saying war till 2024. Are they thinning the population in Gaza, West Bank? Will Hezbollah go all out in this? And you see, the only population they're thinning is the Israeli population. Look what's happening. They wanted to commit an ethnic cleansing against the Gazan population. They ethnically cleansed themselves. Why? Because the Gazans are deep-rooted in their land. They are the natives of the land. They were born there. They are descendants of Nakba survivors who were expelled from their homes in 1948, Nakba survivors who were expelled from their homes in 1940 and 1967. Some of them are still alive. You're talking about people who are deeply rooted in their lands for generations and who know what their enemy is capable of, and they don't trust them, so they're rooted. That's why people stayed in the northern part of Gaza despite starvation. They would rather die on their land than leave it to the invading violent colonizers, the terrorists. Likewise with Hezbollah, you're talking about the people of the land, these people are. So they're not gonna remove anyone. And the only population that's thinning is the Zionist Israeli population. That's what's thinning. 3 million conservative estimates outside of Israel, never coming back. The Galilee is what? 90% empty. People from the settlements close to Lebanon, close to Gaza, forget about that. That's done. And what? World Zionist Federation, they had a poll. That was 4 months ago, asking every Israeli abroad, are you going to come back? 80% said no, thank you. Israel stopped releasing statistics after November, when it was already stated that 2.2 million are definitely abroad, 1 million during the less than first month of the war, plus 1.2, excluding descendants who were already permanently residing abroad, that Israel calculates as part of the demographics, because they're obsessed about demographics. We need to have Jewish majority. So the thinning population is the Israeli Zionist population. The population that's going nowhere is the population who has been there like their ancestors, all for hundreds of years, for centuries. And Gulnara, thank you so much for your super. Arkanarchus said, I said from the start that one side has airport and passports, others inside a prison camp. The side with planes and dual passports will migrate more, totally. And this is what happened, and is happening, and will happen further, by the way. ABCD is asking, what do you think about Azerbaijan who have close military ties with the occupiers, giving the Zionists and Mossad free reign in the southeast of the country? I mean, any country that has ties with a country capable of conducting such a large-scale genocide and infanticide, such heinous crimes against humanity, such intense, high levels of barbarism, they must have something wrong in them. The people in power and anyone allowing it, and the people supporting it, by the way. It's not like the people are exempt of responsibility. The populations of countries that support something like that, they have a responsibility too. But we're talking about the people who make the decisions first and foremost. Anyone who supports a country that is committing a genocide and an infanticide is just as bad as them. Marvin Vergas saying, question, when war breaks out in Lebanon, when will refugee go to? How many Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon will Zio target? Well, it's not necessary that they start with the Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon, because Israel, especially with its limited, clearly, firepower, facing delays as it's described by Netanyahu from the United States, they would need to prioritize their weapon usage. Their priority wouldn't be to go and land bombs on refugee camps. Their priority would be Hezbollah hubs, Hezbollah command centers, Hezbollah factories, Hezbollah everything. And this is where I think Hezbollah is superior to Israel, by the way. They are targeting more strategic areas in Israel than Israel is targeting strategic places in Lebanon. Yes, Israel has intel in Lebanon. Yes, they do have target assassinations. They do. However, strategic locations, Hezbollah have them under the thumb. I think Hezbollah is superior to Israel. And look at where we are at. That was never the case. Previously, you had Hezbollah and Hamas and the resistance. They had no answer when Israel was attacking and when Israel was spying, for example. They had no countermeasures. But look at how things progressed. Countermeasures superseding Israel. It's different. So I think Israel will prioritize targeting key locations. That's if it knows where they are. Hezbollah will come out from under the mountains for them. Telling you, people who were in 2006 war, they used to say we were fighting ghosts. Israeli soldiers. He used to say we were fighting ghosts. The tree moves and shoots at you. This is what they used to say. Marvin is asking a question, does Israel have enough men to find a war with Lebanon, expand to Syria? Put two lines under the men. Men? I wouldn't describe them as men. Come on. To fight a war with Lebanon. Enough numbers, enough things. No, they don't, but they like to bark. Now, which dog barks the loudest? The dog that doesn't bite. The dog that bites, he'll come and run after you and bite the living daylight out of you, and you can't do anything. The first thing who will be barking is you after you've been bit. You'll say, ah! But now they're barking. And when they bark, they're not biting. And then bite, okay, we saw your bites. Okay, destruction, mass genocide, massacring people. Okay, and people still sticking there. Who's losing faith? Who's losing morale? Who's losing popularity? Hard questions. Lizzie Lizard is asking, do you think all will attack Israel, Iraq, Yemen, Hezbollah as soon as the war is declared? Listen, one of the scenarios of an all-out war against Israel that will completely shut down everything in Israel, including every air defense, everything, is all of these fronts combined launching a couple of dozen thousands missiles on Israel all at once. Now, they have the biggest problem with Hezbollah. Why? Because missiles launched from Yemen, missiles launched from Iraq, missiles launched from Iran, they need to make way facing the genocide cartel air defense systems. Who is the genocide cartel? Everyone who supports Israel. You know, US, Britain, the Arab states supporting, intercepting these missiles. With Hezbollah, it's Israel exposed. So that's why they're saying that the most imminent and biggest threat to Israel is Hezbollah, the most urgent threat. And guess what? They don't have an answer. One of the scenarios is but that's not necessarily gonna necessarily happen. However, it's a possibility that it can happen. Not that the Hezbollah attacks wouldn't be enough, by the way. They will be more than enough. But if it grows bigger than that, then Israel's in trouble. Israel's in deep trouble. They're already in deep trouble. Listen, I'll give it to you from Israel's just counting days. Israel is finished. We're seeing the end. We're seeing the end. It's just a matter of how much time they can buy. They have the prospect to buy years. They have a prospect to buy more, right? By how things are going, it looks like they are doing a free fall and insisting on it. Why? Because they're confirming they're an existential threat and they're doing nothing to stop this existential threat. When all of the fronts that are attacking them already told them, if you stop the genocide in Gaza, we will stop attacking you. That's what they're doing. And Anwar, thank you so much for your super thanks. That's from Anwar Abu Bakr. Anwar says, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. He said, I wanted to ask if you heard the story from the Jerusalem Post about the IDF having prior knowledge of the 7th of October attacks 3 weeks prior. Yes. It was reported from the beginning, by the way. Look, in the beginning, there were reports that Israelis knew from the Gaza division. One lady soldier told her commander, I'm seeing suspicious movements on the 6th of October. They denied, they didn't act on it. Whatever happened, happened. There was another report that Egypt warned them. There was another report, Shabak is having the investigation in Israel, saying that we knew we didn't act. Then Hamas themselves, they had a drama series 1 year before depicting every single thing they're about to do. And in Be'eri, and Hamas had a monitoring point in Gaza facing Israel. It had a slogan on it with the name of an Israeli settlement saying, we are coming for you. Now, if I'm observing on the other side, I'd be worried. They're sending me a message, I'm coming for you. And why specifically the town? Why not something else? And they did invade it afterwards. All of these signs, and what? Did Israel enable it? Did they know, but they wanted it to implement a plan that would later fail? Were they that incompetent that they relied on AI too much and they were apathetic and they were engaging in this internal battle they had, the judicial reform? Were there certain decision makers in the security establishment who had some sort of an interest and therefore they kept certain things hidden? Lots of questions, but one thing's for sure, something was known. Another thing that's for sure, things were pre-planned. The lies, they were already there. The 40 beheaded babies, Hamas massacred civilians, pumping up the numbers, all of that. Although they killed their own citizens of the 7th of October, they were the ones committing the massacres of the civilians. In Be'eri, Nir Oz, Ra'im, you saw the tanks, you saw the Israeli witnesses, we spoke about them, how many times now? Confirming it was Israelis shooting at us. The Nova Festival with the video footage showing the people some of them potentially being kidnapped to Gaza as well, shooting at them. The people who were rescued saying that Israel was shooting at us. The pilot who confirmed we were ordered to shoot at everything going back to Gaza regardless of what it was. That's why they don't want a state-level inquiry. They had two lawsuits, but they were civil, representing approximately 42 families of some of the victims on the 7th of October, represented by the top lawyers in Israel, by the way. But that's only civil. State inquiry, they don't want it, because a state inquiry would expose everything. They're going to do like the US when they did what they did with 9/11. They let the people sign at the time to receive the compensation to not have any inquiry against the state, against the government. And in Israel, obviously, there will never be a full, thorough investigation of the 7th of October. You can forget about it. It's not going to happen. And they had 8 months now, 9 months almost, to get rid of so much evidence. Not that they can really get rid of everything we already saw, because that's already recorded and published. But on the ground, they had the time to take off a lot of evidence, and it would be obvious. It would be obvious. I mean, when you already have over half of the population in Israel believing that it's their country, it's their government's responsibility what happened. By the way, so I hope that elaborates. Marvin Vergus question, Zionists will blame Iran for Hezbollah weapons. Do you think USA will target Iran to support Israel? Clearly not. Biden already gave Netanyahu a cold shoulder. He said we're not going to participate. Secretary of Defense told Gallant, inform us if you want to retaliate against Iran. Biden, when they helped Israel intercept some of the UAVs and missiles, said, you've got to win, take the win. Signaling they don't want to pull their countries for the sake of Netanyahu. Now, the US is realizing it's no longer just about Israel, who the establishment or government views as strategic. It's not strategic for any population on earth. Israel is not strategic for the European people. Israel is not strategic for the American people. That's a lie being sold to you. Like all of the other lies, like the Zionism lie, like the criticizing them as anti-Semitic lie, like all of these lies. But they realize there's a difference between Netanyahu and Israel. And the US already went against things they previously said. Like in previous statements, senior figures in the US administration, they used to say, Iran will pay the price if they attack Israel. It's no longer the case. Like I said, when they intercepted the missiles, they told Israel, you got the win, take the win. Meaning, leave me alone. Why? Oof, I'm exposed. It's going to be a duck shooting range, and they have everything under control, Iran. What do you think? All of these bases in the Middle East, all of the interests. Now, whereas they say that they want Israel like Israel, they also have other interests too. I don't think so. It might reach that stage, but I don't think so. Look, they just went out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Do you think they want to get dragged back in? Don't think so. And that being viewed as for what? For the sake of a genocidal state, committing a genocide and an infanticide in Gaza? No, thank you. And Marvin again, thank you so much. Couple of shekels, huh? And Abu Yusuf, thank you for your super thanks. And Anwar as well. Abu Yusuf saying many geopolitical analysts say that we are at the brink of a nuclear war. Are we all in existential threat like Israel? Well, Western powers' policies across the world, in Ukraine, in Palestine, are reckless and are a threat to global security. Reckless and a threat to global security, and are hostile. Motivated purely by corporate greed and geopolitical greed and power lust to control people, and arrogance and racism and supremacy. Lots of combinations, not just one thing. They are stretching it with the nuclear thing. They're stretching it. Now, they're met with more reasonable leaders in other countries, especially when you talk about the countries that have the biggest nuclear arsenals in the world, like Russia. Way more reasonable. Putin is way more reasonable than Biden and Sunak and all of these front puppets. At least with Putin, you know what you're getting. Likewise with Xi Jinping, the Chinese president. Everyone realizes what's the end result of a nuclear war. Look, I hope we really don't get there. It's ugly, and it's primarily there for deterrence. But if you want to think who is the biggest risk to humanity when it comes to nuclear war, look at the ones who used them and killed hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, with them. Look at who landed them on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These are the people who are dangerous. These are the people who you should be worried about. People to this day Lindsey Graham justifying nuclear bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, advising Israel to launch bombs on Gaza, nuclear bombs. And you're worried about the nuclear of Iran? The last thing I'm worried about is the nuclear with Iran. I'm not worried about the Russian nuclear. I'm not worried about the Chinese. I'm worried about the American nuclear. I'm worried about the British nuclear. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about countries with a proven track record of hostile terrorist actions across the boards, thousands of miles away, where there are people living peacefully, have nothing to do with them, did no harm to them or their country's populations. These are the people who are worrying. The people who go and bully the whole world with their armies under false pretexts, lies like WMDs, and false flags like 9/11. These are the people who are worrying when it comes to nuclear. So this is where most of the change needs to be done. That's with Abu Yusuf. Thank you for the question. Interesting question, by the way. And Anwar is saying, I would like to also add the IDF gave explicit permission to the Nova Festival Fest 1 day extension. The festival was supposed to be over. Yes, thank you. Plus, it was so close to Gaza. How can you give an authorization for a festival close to the borders with Hamas, When you know Hamas have tunnels, when you know Hamas have all of that. They wanted it to happen so they can have the excuse to ethnically cleanse Gaza and commit a genocide. They handed it the gas exploration contracts 2 weeks into the genocide. You're supposedly facing the biggest attack in your history ever since your establishment. And the thing you're worried about 2 weeks on is handing gas exploration contracts around the 24th of October. Is that the priority? Not the Israelis kidnapped, according to you and your... Clearly, there's something fishy. Kate is saying, who will Lebanese side if war breaks out between Hizb and Israel? Any noble Lebanese person will side with the resistance. Obviously, how can you not? Israel is the country that occupied you for so many years. Israel is the country that went into Beirut, occupied your southern part. How can you side with them? What kind of person can side with them? Saying that, some people will side with them. Who? People who are like them. Like the examples that we have in Palestine. Any honorable, dignified human being will side with their noble resistance. Why? Because they are fighting the just war. They are defending themselves from an occupier, from an expansionist, neo-colonialist, violent, terrorist, supremacist, fascist state. It's very simple. I mean, it couldn't be clearer than that. Anyone who, you know, the Mahmoud Abbas type of the West, from the West Bank of Lebanon, they will give you every excuse under the sun to, label the resistance. Oh, you're withdrawing and bringing all of this trouble on us. We have nothing to do with Gaza. It's their problem. Oh no, you're a project of Iran in the region. They're only interested about themselves. It's only fake. You're only faking it. Yeah, they'll come up with any excuse under the sun. Why? Because someone's doing something and they're not. Someone is doing something that's making a change, a historical change, a global change. It's no longer regional, by the way, you can forget about it. It's a global change, and they're not. And they can't handle that fact. So they'll tell you, oh no, they're agents and they're Iran and then Wilayat al-Faqih and this and that. Every excuse under the sun. But Hezbollah enjoy a lot of support of, in my opinion, the majority of the Lebanese people. And again, who's defending them? The Lebanese army? The Lebanese army was giving the IDF tea in 2006. They used to call them Sabbabin al-Shay, people who pour tea, when Hezbollah was fighting them and the other resistance. Who liberated Lebanon? Hezbollah liberated Lebanon. That's another thing. You know, these people, your lands have been liberated because of the Lebanese resistance and anyone aligned with them. Who liberated Sinai? The Egyptian army when they fought Israel. Who liberated Gaza? Hamas when they expelled them through armed resistance. What does that tell you? That firstly, you're dealing with a neo-fascist colonialist, expansionist state that doesn't stop, continues to expand like cancer, malignant cancer, right? And they prove that they only understand the use of force. And Hezbollah showed you that. And the resistance showed you that. And we'll finish it there. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was really a pleasure speaking to you. I'm sorry if I missed some of your comments, but I appreciate every single one of them. Trust me, with all of my heart, really. Much love to all of you. I love all of you guys very, very much. And I appreciate all of your comments and inputs. Obviously, we're just restricted with time, and YouTube keeps taking the messages up. I'm unable to reach the top in the live. You know the score. A special thanks to obviously everyone who sent supers as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your contribution. Manuel, Francis, Kirk, Faraz, Daniela, Stephen, Ray, Faraz, El Karaki, Aini, El Karaki, again, brother, thank you. Samantha, Ray, Josie Baz, Faraz, Gulnara, Anwar, Abu Bakr, Marvin, Abu Yusuf, and Anwar again. Thank you all so much for your supers. And again, I'm sorry if I missed anyone or anything because of the live chat, obviously, but I appreciate all of your input again. Thank you so much for your observations, for your spot on some of the comments and questions as well. You'll probably see another video that I posted, by the way. It was due to be published at 10:30. You can go ahead and watch it. Apart from that, much love and respect and best wishes to all of you. Stay blessed, take care of yourselves, and I will hopefully see you soon. I'll hopefully be with you tomorrow, inshallah. Take care, have a good night, good day, depending on where you are. And see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam.